What's up, everyone? I'm Cogliano, and you're watching the On Live show. So I saw Immortals and Janie Jones this week, and let's get right into those. So Immortals is a Greek mythology tale directed by Tarsem Singh, who has only made a few films, but is very well known for his incredible visual stylization. And that definitely shows in this film. All of the fight scenes, especially the ones towards the end, you have this one scene in the sky, which is supposed to be um, based on the Sistine Chapel painting on the ceiling, and kind of how that uses a lot of different positioning of its characters and its people in that portrait, and they aren't exactly like all standing in the same place or in the same like direction. So the way that they did that in this movie and showed the gods in the sky was just amazing. It was something that I was just blown away by. It was so cool to see that. But the bad thing about that is that it's at the very end of the film, and I would have liked to see more like stuff around that maybe in the beginning, because it would have made more sense if that kind of stuff was shown early on to show the conflict between the gods and the titans and that kind of stuff. But it was definitely good to see that at least just a little bit. So this movie is entirely green screened. There's some practical sets that they use, but there's no like on location filming, which is really kind of cool because the last movie I saw by Tarsem, which is called The Fall, was entirely on location, and that movie was amazing. I definitely recommend that you see that because I think that's a much better movie than this was, and that was really cool to see because The Fall just expresses how much of a incredible and creative mind Tarsem has, and I don't think he got all the way with this film because there are some things that just weren't, I think, like completely uh, like thought through and that kind of stuff. And there were definitely points where it could have been, or things could have been a little bit different just to make them kind of more convincing. The story in this is pretty basic and kind of weak, and I wasn't too pleased with that because they kind of just this isn't actually based on any like actual mythology tale, so they kind of just took ideas that are used in Greek mythology and just threw them together and kind of made a kind of a mess of this jumbled story about a slave who rises up and has to fight with the gods and take down some tyrannical king. But I just didn't. It didn't really appeal to me because it was just kind of like the most like basic kind of story that there could have been, and I was really disappointed that they didn't try to like be more creative with the story elements, and when they could have just spent a little more time on that. It also didn't help that the performances in this were just awful. I thought Henry Cavill was going to be a great lead for this movie, and he just did not come through. Mickey Rourke was barely in the film. Frida Pinto was just kind of annoying throughout the whole thing. And the other characters just don't really see much, and I think this is where the movie falls short because they tried to shove in so many characters into this film and to complete their idea, but they didn't develop enough on any of the characters, and they really just didn't carry the story anywhere. And it was kind of weird because they added characters that didn't need to be in the story, like the one guy who uh, becomes like a traitor and then ends up just getting killed later on. I thought that was kind of a pointless character to have. And the other weird thing was that they didn't have all the gods. They only had like 6 gods, and I'm sitting there thinking like, there's definitely more than 6 Greek gods, and it's very bizarre that you don't have all of them, at least a little bit in the film. So I thought that was definitely a letdown, and um, it just, with the weak story they had, it just wasn't good enough to like get me through the whole film. I also saw this movie in 3D, and the 3D was not very good. It's post-converted 3D, so that's always like a hit or miss type of thing, and this was definitely not one of the cases where it was good. So I would definitely say it's not necessary to see it in 3D. The visuals are stunning nonetheless, though, and if you do want to see just if you want to see the movie just for the visuals, I totally say that would be absolutely worth it. And but if you're looking for like an awesome gripping story, that's just not what this movie is about. And I would definitely say you should pass on it if that's what you're looking for. So Janie Jones is a film about a musician named Ethan who uh, finally meets his long lost daughter after 13 years. And it's about how their relationship as a family begins to grow as the father goes on tour. This movie was exceptionally average, and nothing really stuck out as far as the performances or just as far as like the story elements and whatnot. And I was kind of disappointed. I've usually gotten into stuff like this where it's kind of like on the road musicians and and that kind of stuff like Crazy Heart or The Runaways, and I thought those movies were really cool, but this one just was kind of um, not as strong and just um, a little more predictable than those two movies. And the movie is pretty unevenly paced because it starts out really slow and then it doesn't really pick up until much later. And it ends with the two deciding that they're going to tour as a father-daughter music group and just go for however long they feel like they can. And I wasn't really impressed by it, so I would definitely say this isn't worth going to, and I would try to see something else similar to it because there's a lot of good things that are based around these kinds of story elements, and a lot of them are really good. So that's it for today. If you liked the episode, you can subscribe to my channel and you can give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to leave a comment for today's question of the day, just go right down below, or you can leave a video response if you want to do that too. So I'll see you guys next week with a couple more films or whatever. And for today's question of the day, I want to know, what's your favorite music-related movie? Mine would probably be, just because I was thinking about it earlier, this is Spinal Tap, which is a movie from the 80s about this like English rock band, which which is a fictional band, but it's really a really funny movie, and it's just like totally on spot with like um, the stereotypes associated with these like um, with that kind of era and uh, the people of that time. And it's a really funny film, and I totally would say that you should check that out. But that's it for today's episode, and that's it.